Alright, we got it. We got it going.
They try to rewrite it. Yeah. Someone else was even saying, oh man, somebody was like, oh, like Colbert used to be the man. Japanese, I'm coming. Like, yeah. Oh man, it was somebody like they were saying. It's like now it's like you don't like the day you went to the network. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Probably, and then I'm like, this is the last episode I'm gonna watch it. Well, I was a little like until like the Kavanaugh hearings, like after the Kavanaugh hearings, because my dad represented I had a little bit, we split the time after that where I represented the secular call, never QIT, never. It's surface level, but rising competency, it's not
CMS. Yes, CMS. Are you still reading this book? One of the people who, when we were very, said that the tornado still around. Yes.
So are you guys from?
Most of us. I'm from college from Boston. That is from. My
We're meeting remotely. Basically signed off. It's still involved politically.
My name's not on there, myself on there.
I thought it was, financial contribution. But I really, in the name of support of Estel Ethereum, her program, I find very interesting. Anybody talk about her, you would have thought she was the devil incarnate, coming from Toledo. That revealing that it is so
I would like to thank everybody for coming out today. The reason we're here is because our political processes and leaders have failed us. We're assembled today because for the first time in the almost 300 years of American history, our government is assaulting and accosting a journalist. Julian Assange has spent 730 days today languishing in Belmarsh prison. Belmarsh prison is often referred to as the Guantanamo Bay of the United Kingdom, where generally the hardest terrorist criminals are placed, people that are rapists and murderers legitimately, proven in court, either awaiting trial or serving out their sentence. The conditions of Belmarsh prison and the detention of the people inside is inhumane to say the least. Julian spent 2 years in there. During this last winter, they turned the heat off, claiming that coronavirus was going to circulate through the vents and contaminate the prison. At the same time, they moved 64 COVID positive patients into Julian's wing of Belmarsh prison while the heat was on. This is 2020, 2021, and there is a journalist freezing to death in a dark prison that was using books to insulate his windows to try to have some semblance of protection from the cold. And that's just one piece. That's just one moment in this entire persecution of our First Amendment liberties. Right? If Julian's allowed to be prosecuted, if he's allowed to be trafficked to the United States under the guise of extradition, we lose everything we understand as a free press. We will no longer have the ability to expose government corruption. We will no longer have the ability to demand that people in power be held accountable for their first-hand words, their emails, their messages, their videos. Right? Chelsea Manning was brave enough to release this information, and she suffered the first decade of her adult life for it. In and out of prison, psychologically tortured, abandoned by a system. Right? In one of Chelsea's last interviews before she went into prison, this last time, she is out now, just so everyone is clear. She was standing in front of a small group of press, and you heard one of her friends in the background ask, "Where is everybody?" And Chelsea said, "This is it." Right? There was a couple people holding a banner behind her in a press conference where she was about to lose her freedom for the third time. And that was one of the moments where I realized that we can't just back down, that no changes were made by these releases. Right? We found out that there was 15,000 civilians murdered in their own neighborhood classified as enemy combatants. We found out that our State Department got turned into an international spying operation where people with the purpose of a diplomatic mission at the United Nations turned into spies that were required by our State Department to turn in reports about how they could manipulate people, rather than simply carrying out a diplomatic mission of peace, which is the UN's supposed agenda. Right? We're standing here today because there's 175 years hanging over Julian's head. And that's just with the 18 charges that stand now. 17 of those charges are under the Espionage Act. 17. These charges go as far as to criminalize the literally receiving information. A non-American receiving information that is factual about the world we live in, is being prosecuted right now for revealing that. And not only does revealing the information become illegal, it will be illegal to transmit the information, it will be illegal to publish classified information, and it's even becoming illegal to talk and to protect sources. That's the one other charge under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Something so broad that turning on a Windows computer, you're in violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, not even hypothetically, but literally, if they choose to roll that law out in that way. And currently, it's being used and manipulated to stop journalists from talking to sources, from stopping journalists from protecting their sources. It is a gross violation of everything we know about freedom of the press. Right? Just to recount some of the things that the U.S. argued in court, right? That the British judge accepted, because Julian, his extradition was denied, but it was only on medical grounds. She accepted every legal argument. Vanessa Baratzer accepted every legal argument by the United States. She accepted the argument that there is no more client-lawyer confidentiality, that a journalist involved in basic journalistic activity is no longer allowed to communicate privately with a lawyer because it may be information involving national interest and defense. It's illegal for this country to even make a dossier about a journalist, right? Let alone for Sheldon Adelson, the hopefully dead Las Vegas Sands casino owner, and his buddies at UC Global, David Morales and others, to contract with the CIA to turn the Ecuadorian embassy into a hardcore spying operation post-2017. They had plans to kidnap Julian in the middle of the night. They had plans to poison Julian. And the only reason we know about this is because someone had such a crisis of faith, because they were asked to steal a diaper from a trash can to try to prove if a child was Julian's or not. This case is the UC Global case is currently in a Spanish court. This isn't hyperbole, this isn't ifs or maybes. This is proven with witnesses, right? And this judge, Vanessa Baratzer, said it's okay, that the United States should be allowed to spy on journalists, because why not, right? And if they're allowed to go after journalists in that way, are they allowed to go after us? How long before one of these private intelligence companies, Bellingcat, Blackwater, or whatever the fuck they turned into now, UC Global, or their new affiliates in the U.S., how long before they're allowed to target us with assassination, poisoning, and kidnapping?
He's doing it now.
We are here today because we critically understand that this is a juncture that cannot pass unabated. Julian Assange threw his body on the gears of a machine designed to kill us all, and we are standing up to demand that he be set free, because it is our civil liberties that are at stake, right? There's all these conversations around censorship right now. Who should or shouldn't be allowed to speak? The first person that was removed from Twitter in a bulk mass public setting was Julian Assange, a journalist who had the audacity simply to say something that the British government and the U.S. didn't like. Right? A simple tweet. Is that the world we want to live in? Where a journalist and a publisher can say accurate and factual information and spend 700 days freezing to death in a cell in downtown London? There's only one decision, and it is no extradition, because this is not a court case, it is a kidnapping. Julian Assange is being strung up and tried for protecting all of us, right? Because they're not inherently after Julian. They're here to take our rights away. They're here to remove our civil liberties and make it so we don't even have the ability to organize or know what is happening here. We're living in a world where we have an administration discussing the idea of a merger between the police department and our military. We're living in a world where the intelligence community has built things called fusion centers across our nation. Hybrid CIA, FBI, NSA, and local police facilities specifically to target people throughout our nation. And that is wrong. This is a gross violation of everything that is our right to privacy. And this is the new civil liberties movement. Because whether you're standing up to march against police injustice that killed Breonna Taylor in her house, or you're standing up against the intelligence communities that killed Seth Rich in the street, it is that same system that is prosecuting Julian Assange. And if we lose our right to expose firsthand what these people are doing, we've already lost. So I want to thank all the brave men and women here today for standing up to make and demand these changes in the world. Because these things don't happen without people being brave enough to do it. So I am honored to stand around and talk to a group of people that have the heart and the courage to come out here and defend what we know is ours.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! No extradition!
What was the decision?
No extradition.
What was the decision?
No extradition.
Free
Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange.
Free Mamiya! Yeah, free Mamiya! Free all political prisoners! Free all political prisoners! Free them all!
Hello, everyone. My name's Jordan. And something that struck me with what Andrew just said is the fact that a tweet, or just the smallest little act of journalism, caused Julian Assange to be in prison. Isn't something like that happening right now? I'm not afraid to say it. And yesterday we talked about political courage, and that's something that really sat with me. We have to have the political courage to be who we are. Because the people who attempt to oppress us have no problem being who they are. They have no problem doing that. And we can't sit back and complain that we're not getting the world that we want when we're not being who we are. And I know I'm not speaking to everyone right now. I'm speaking to myself and other people. Because it's hard having political courage these days when if you talk about or tweet about the most recent progressive hero, you get police sent to your house. And I'm talking about AOC. I'm not afraid to say her name. Because that's where it's going to go. It's going to go where we're afraid to say politicians' names. We need to not be afraid to let them expose themselves for who they truly are. And that is police state actors. And it angers me, but that anger will certainly be used for political courage and action. Direct action. And I'm very encouraged to be here today with everyone. I sometimes think, but it's not the time right now. But I do want to say that we need to have the political courage and let these people expose themselves for who they are. It's very upsetting what is happening to Julian Assange, but we can say that okay, this is who they are. This is who they are, and we need to communicate that to anyone who we think will care about doing something about this, or just to anybody. We need to let them expose themselves for who they are, and we only can do that when we are being who we are. And we need to be courageous and just truthful and honest. Because they have no problem being honest. It seems like nowadays they have no problem being out in the open about who they are and how much they want to keep us in this sense of peasantry. So, I guess my call today is for us to have political courage, not be afraid of these people, not be afraid of their names, not give them what they want. We are going to be ourselves, and who we are individual sovereign people. And that is nothing to be ashamed or afraid of. Thank you.
Free Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. No extradition.
No extradition!
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange!
So up next, we're going to have Paula. She's one of our organizers from Boston. She's been doing this before Action for Assange was even a thing. So she's one of the people that really inspires me to keep going.
That's really funny to hear. I'm not an inspiring person. I'm not an inspiring talker. I ended up being one of the Boston organizers. We've been doing that since in early October, every other week. Because if we don't do it, who else is going to do it? Our groups are small. Sometimes there's 6 people showing up. Sometimes there's 15. And people get demoralized by that, but my feeling is if we don't do it, who does it? Nobody shows up. Nobody passes out a leaflet. Then there's nobody. So that's why we do it. And I don't usually speak. I'm teaching myself to speak because every voice has to be heard. Now that Julian's is silenced, I need a piece of paper to read because I'm not good on my feet. But I say to hell with that because at least I'm getting my thoughts out there. So this one is for the DOJ. This was written for the DOJ. The U.S. war machine has proven to the world that it can run a criminal enterprise abroad without fear of paying any consequences, and they've carried it even further by undermining the rule of law and incarcerating the truth tellers for exposing their crimes. Washington, D.C., along with 30 cities in 12 countries on 5 continents, are showing up today across the globe to turn this shit around, to right the wrongs inflicted on Julian Assange and other truth tellers because he dared to go up against the war machine. April 11th is the 2-year anniversary of Julian's incarceration in the UK's Guantanamo. Despite never committing a crime and despite winning his court case in January. The war machine gets away with creating chaos around the world. Everything the U.S. touches doesn't turn to gold like the media wants you to believe with their Hollywood and their American exceptionalism narrative. Actually, everything the U.S. touches turns to rubble. I call it the Libya touch. No one pays a price for turning a country into a slave market, for gunning down 25 innocent civilians in 38 minutes from the Apache helicopter, for starving whole populations with U.S. sanctions. These psychopaths at the top break international laws, break their own laws to bend the will of people and the will of sovereign countries. Claire Daly, an Irish politician and activist, said it best, describing the Iraq War where millions of civilians were killed. She said, and I quote, "We saw people at the highest level of power do criminal acts and suffer no consequences. It made us feel powerless, and our societies feel broken and corrupt. So when WikiLeaks came along in 2010, releasing the war logs and collateral murder video, it was a huge democratic event. It was an example of someone using journalism to try and put it all right again, to address injustice. It was very powerful, and it made us feel powerful because it provided the cold, hard evidence for what everybody already knew, that there was something filthy and rotten and criminal at the very top of our society. There is nothing just about the Department of Justice. It is part of the machine. I refuse to be demoralized by a handful of powerful war-mongering elites running the show now. I will not allow them to make me feel like I have no voice and make me feel like afraid to speak up. They were able to silence Julian for the time being, but they cannot silence us.
So up next we have Morgan. She's one of my favorite independent journalists. She's been on the ground with us since our very first action in February of 2019. So without further ado.
Hi, my name is Morgan Archikina, and I am here with the Answer Coalition, that stands for Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. And the reason that we are out here today is, of course, because that is what the revelations that have come from WikiLeaks and from Julian Assange and from all of the whistleblowers who have published with him have enabled us to do, is to more effectively fight U.S. imperialism. And if we have some of our signs here, I don't know where, what, as Free Assange's crime exposing U.S. imperialism. And I think it's, yeah, here we go, lovely visual aid, thank you, Andrew. And I think it's important to remember that that is really what this is all about. For years, the media loved Julian Assange. They couldn't get enough of the collateral murder video. They couldn't get enough of the Afghanistan war logs, everything that was published by him. And then all of a sudden, it seemed around 2016, 2017, that the attitude suddenly changed. And what was it that changed? It was that now they were saying that, oh, Assange was working with Russia, that the DNC emails, the content of which was not important, but simply the fact that they had been published and they had benefited. They always say, oh, they benefited Donald Trump. They didn't benefit Donald Trump. They benefited us because we got to see the gross inner workings of the Democratic Party, the way that the Clinton family has absolute total financial and personal control over that organization that is one of the only two parties that is allowed to have any real currency in this country. But it wasn't just that. It's also the fact that the U.S. government has now identified Russia alongside China as the new focus of its imperial war drive, right? The Pentagon has said that great power competition is now the primary focus in U.S. foreign policy, not the war on terror anymore. And so there is this all-out drive to demonize Russia, to demonize China, to make them into the new objects of hatred and terror. And we've seen how, on the one hand, that has already driven a new wave of anti-Asian racism and anti-Chinese racism. But it's also been, I mean, this thing is so multifaceted, it's also driven this attack on Assange, this attack on free speech, where if you stand up and you say something different from the accepted line, you are labeled Russian propaganda. You are labeled disinformation. Twitter will take down your accounts. YouTube will delete your accounts. They'll demonetize them. The FBI, the Department of Justice here, will put a label on you, make you register as a foreign agent or whatever. And this is all about forwarding the U.S. war drive, the new focus of U.S. imperialism. And I think that it's important that we are out here to stand up and say that we must be allowed to know the truth. And that's really what this is an attempt to do, is to block the truth from being published. Because on the one hand, it's the fact that people like Assange, that groups like WikiLeaks are willing to publish this information, But as we know, if there's the other side is that there is always these dirty dealings happening, and there are always people who want to expose. They see what is happening, they see what that it is wrong, and they want to bring light to it. And there are people who won't do it. The other day was the anniversary of the publishing of the Collateral Murder video. Before Chelsea Manning went to WikiLeaks, she went to the Washington Post. She went to the New York Times. They wouldn't take it. It was only WikiLeaks that allowed us to know about that. And that's why they want this to go away. That's why they want to criminalize the publishing of information that we're not, quote unquote, supposed to have. That's why it's important that we stand up and we defend Julian Assange, that we defend free speech, that we stand up for all people who are bringing the truth about the oppressive forces of this world. It's not just Assange, it's, friend back here mentioned Mumia Abu Jamal, it's Mohammed Lamin Hadi, who's rotting in Morocco's Tiflis 2 prison right now, a Sahrawi activist and journalist who documented the crimes of the police of the U.S. client state Morocco, and so many more people who are trying to hold power to account, and this is power fighting back. Well, we have to fight back against that power. So we have to free Julian Assange, we have to free all political prisoners, and that's what we have to do.
Free Assange! Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange! No extradition! No extradition! Free Julian Assange! No extradition!
No extradition!
Get it right, the full responsibility.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? No. No? Now?
Hello?
Okay, all right. Hi, everybody. I'm Esther Rivera, and I produce a show on Pacifica Radio called On the Ground, Voices of Resistance from the Nation's Capital. And we've covered actions for Assange, right, many times. So it's actually a very honor to come out and speak today to the group, and also to represent Answer Coalition. So when I thought about coming out today, I wanted to say something about Assange, but also wanted to say something about Mumia Abu Jamal. And I could not find my poem that I had written for him many years ago, but I wanted to honor him also. And I thought about the words to Ella's song, and a lot of people know it as "We who believe in freedom cannot rest." And so maybe we can all join in just a few bars of that, okay? And then I'll tell you about why I thought that was so appropriate. So, we who believe in freedom shall not rest. Go ahead, you can sing it. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. And so I thought that that was appropriate because a lot of people, they know the verse about, you know, not being satisfied until the death of a black mother's son is as important as the death of a white mother's son. But what the song also says is that which touches me most is that I had a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me. And it also says the older that I get, the better I know that the secret of going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young, who dare to run against the storm, not needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand
stand against tyranny. Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to realize that teaching others to stand up and fight is the only way my struggle survives. I'm a woman who speaks in a voice, and I must be heard. At times I can be quite difficult. I'll bow to no man's word. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. So I thought that was very appropriate, because really what journalists do is share information, share truth, so that people can stand up for freedom. And if we don't have that right, if that right is abridged, if it's taken away from us, we have taken away from us a vital tool for freedom and all the things that we're supposed to stand for in this country. So I really wanted to say that at first today. The second thing I wanted to talk about is how we know that Julian Assange will be absolved by history. You know how people say, oh, when history is written, it'll be clear that Julian Assange was on the right side. But we can't really wait for history to absolve Julian Assange. You know what I mean? And the way these maniacs and warmongers and nuclear nihilists are handling this world, we don't know what kind of history will be written anyway, right? Will history be written, right? And so what we want justice for Julian now. We want freedom for Julian now, okay? So those are the two things I wanted to say. Like I said, I don't have the poem that I wanted to present for Mumia, but just to at least raise his name as well, and to let everyone know that these are two journalists, probably the most prominent journalists of our time, and they're both in prison. All right? Free Julian.
So up next, we have a wonderful individual. She has joined us all the way from London. She's part of the crew out there regularly. So this is Wendy, and I am absolutely honored to have a member of the UK crew out with us here today.
Free Julian Assange! The focus of this movement to free Assange must always come back to the freedom of the press, the freedom of speech, the freedom, our rights to know, because we believe the power is with the people. It's not with the politicians. It's not with the war machine. The power is with the people. We tell our government they serve us. So we have the power. That's what Julian Assange is in prison for, because he believed you wanted to know the truth. And he is there in Belmarsh in the UK. I'm from California. I've been living in Arizona, but I've been coming and going to London. And shout out to my friends in London that are keeping the vigil, the DEA campaign, and all our friends. It's like a family, keeping the fire going out there. They're very strong people. They're very fighters, But it's an international group. They're from all different countries of the world. They're fascinating people because they all have their own story of how their own country disenfranchised them, made them feel they had no part in the political process. And this let them understand that one of the truest notions that you get from, you can read the WikiLeaks, you can scroll through the data, and it's all fascinating, but what reveals the true nature of this democracy that we live in is his incarceration. Because his incarceration broke so many international laws. Him being dragged out of the embassy 2 years ago broke every law of our country, and so many laws of our country and their country, the UK, and there's a history of the Swedish laws being broken or used against him, and so it really reveals, we're talking a lot of money. Think about how much money that represents. We know that while he was in the embassy, there was at least 26 million pounds spent on his security, people watching him from the buildings across. So the continued incarceration of him is a crime against humanity. It's a crime against, it's torture. We know that from Nils Meltzer. And he was talking about how he has studied all the torture people who have been tortured in the world. And Nils Meltzer discussed how Julian Assange shows all the psychological proof in his character, his personality, and all the things how he couldn't even say his name a year ago. Julian couldn't. I was there in the courtroom, and they had him behind thick glass. He couldn't talk to his lawyers. When has that been done? To murderers, to war criminals in the world. That's never been done before, where they couldn't access their lawyers, they couldn't access the data of their trial. They had no access. Our country has pushed the UK to do this, and our country should be ashamed, because this is not what America stands for. This is not, and it shows a public example to the world, to every country in the world. And trust me, the countries in power are watching. Germany is watching. China is watching. If we're going to say we have the best human rights, you can trust us. That all they have to do is say, Julian Assange. And the fact that we are, I'm not saying the U.S. is not trustworthy. I'm saying prove you're trustworthy. Free Assange now.
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 So we look to ourselves and that we protect, that we only find out what is the truth about this case, because there are layers of misinformation on the mass media. You really have to do digging to find out the truth of Julian. And the truth is that he is a journalist, and he is being tortured to death in the UK at the behest of our government. And every person, most people in this state here, this mini almost state, right, have sworn an oath to what? The U.S. Constitution. And that Constitution includes the First Amendment. People love to talk about the second lately, but I'm talking about the first. The first is more important to me, because if you can't speak, what else can you do? The point is that Julian actually strengthened our country. They don't realize it. He brought us up higher, because this is a new kind of journalism that's never been done before. And people don't understand, they don't tend to understand what a wonderful service he has done for our First Amendment. He has made it better. He has refined and made it excellent, so that we could say to our leaders, so we know what they're doing, and we could say to them, stop that, don't do that war, don't do that incursion. But our mainstream media is blocking everything at present, and it gets to be very difficult to understand even where we're having wars today. Are we having wars in Syria? Do we have wars on the coast of China? What are we doing? Nobody knows. So we do our digging, and that's not journalism. We're individuals. We can't be everywhere at one time. But we need Julian Assange to be free, so that all the journalists are free. All the investigative journalists are free. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange.
Thank you.
So up next, I would like to invite Mr. Wolf. He is the publisher of Covert Action magazine. I believe it's a twice-weekly publication about national security information. So without further ado, I am honored to have him here joining us today.
Go Lou! Thank you, too.
How do you think I feel standing up here to defend Julian? Because he is one of the great journalists of not only of our time, of all time. He has exposed the lies of the United States government that pretends that we are exceptional. In fact, every president in our lifetimes, think about it, says the magic words: the United States is the greatest nation on the face of the earth. What does that do? That leaves out 193 other countries. I guess they're sliced cheese. And Hillary Clinton said, when after the assassination on television around the world of Muammar Gaddafi, who was disemboweled on camera, she said, we came, we saw, he died. Sick fuck! That was on NBC. And, you know, Bill and Hillary are really part of the problem, not because of their roles as former President and Secretary of State, but they were the architects, in many ways, of American foreign policy. Bill Clinton was proud to say that the leader, now the president of Rwanda, you remember the 1994 genocide in Rwanda that killed over 1 million people. He was one of his very close friends was Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame was known and is known today, even as he's head of state here all these years after 1994 of Rwanda, a tortured country. Did you know that they talk about secrecy in Washington? The cult of secrecy, which this building behind us represents, the one down the street, the FBI, the CIA in Langley. It's a cult of secrecy. Did you know that there are 17 levels of secrecy above the level of the president having access to? Think about that. That's secrecy on steroids. But why do they need secrecy, and why do they use secrecy? It's because to hide behind the lies of American imperialism, the lies that offers them the chance to dominate the world. You remember the Cold War that was supposedly ended at the end of when the Soviet Union was taken down. Well, the Cold War is alive and well. It has a new name now. It's called American exceptionalism. It's called American dominance in the world. It is called what is called in military parlance the Long War. What is the Long War? The Long War, and that's a Pentagon term. The Long War is the ethic that says we run the world. That's really what it stands for. Let me also say that Julian, by his great courage and example as an investigative journalist, he revealed a lot of the lies that they hide behind. I'm sorry to say some people are wearing a Biden button today to support Julian. Joe Biden, if you look at his background, and we have written about it in the magazine Covert Action Magazine. You can look up our website, covertactionmagazine.com. We write about his history, his Cold War history. Yeah, he claims he was opposed to the Gulf War. However, the truth is very different. Just read about it in the magazine. I would also add that the United States does not stand up for anything good anymore in the world. I'm glad. I think most of us, if not all of us in this circle today, are very glad that Donald Trump has been sent to the ash can of history. However, he still looms large. He's still collecting millions of dollars from his supporters. Did you know that he does it just once? He doesn't just do it one time. He then milks them continually. And but Donald Trump has a friend in the White House today. His name is Joe Biden. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lou. Up next, I have a person I'm very proud to call fam. We have Franco from Frank Analysis. He's part of the MCSC network. And for those of you who don't know, Nico House is a goddamn hero. His grandfather recently passed away 48 hours after getting vaccinated. And Nico's still managed to pick the pieces up of his life and keep fighting forward. So I am damn proud, right, to have Franco here with us, a member of the same MCSC network who's been standing up alongside us for close to 2 years now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Free!
Julian Assange!
Free!
Julian Assange!
We will not back down!
Woo!
We will not
Back down.
We will not
Back down!
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 Julian Assange is given a proposal. He was supposed to give the name of the person who gave him the information for the collateral murder video, and he refused to give the name. He refused to give the name. The state sees us as a threat. That's why they hide information from us. And because Julian Assange decided to protect the name of the person, he's a hero. He's a hero for releasing information. And there's people out there that still don't see that. Unfortunately, there's people out there that still believe in electoral politics and believe in politicians like AOC that don't see the significance of journalists like Julian Assange. They see the significance in police brutality, though. And then the equivalent to that, I told them, is, do you know what Julian Assange is? It's the equivalent of somebody filming a police violence happening. It's the equivalent to the cameraman that showed the murder of George Floyd. What will we do without people like that, if information like that is withheld? Julian Assange released video evidence of children, of journalists, of innocent people getting murdered. How can you not relate to that?
Yeah.
And now, what's happening to the independent media? We're all getting censored. All these channels that talk about Julian Assange, all these channels that are releasing information that goes against the mainstream media narrative of COVID are all getting censored, they're all getting taken down. And it's because this information is not getting released enough of how the corporations and the elite class are getting more and more powerful as time passes on.
Right.
That's why we need journalists like Julian Assange, because they reveal how these corporations, how the elite and predator class get more and more powerful. Free! Free!
Julian Assange!
Free! Free!
Julian Assange!
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. You guys are brave, and the elite and predator class see you as dangerous. Don't back down. We will not
Back down!
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 Thank you guys so much.
You sure, buddy?
So up next, we have an organizer with us that's been fighting for Julian in New York City. They have an event going on out there in New York today, but we are honored to have them here with us in D.C. So without any further ado,
I'm Zool, and I organize in New York City. We came out when Julian was kidnapped illegally from the Ecuadorian embassy with groups from Answer to Veterans for Peace, from the Green Party, and on and on. And many of us stayed week after week and did this to Julian. First at the UK Consulate in New York, then at the New York Times building, another traitor to Julian, and then at the Department of Justice, because that's what we want. We want some justice. And what are we getting? Julian, like Leonard Peltier, like Mumia, is a political prisoner. Mumia is a journalist who reported on the Move bombing in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia government dropped a call them on their own people. He was framed up for it. He's been in prison for 40 years for it, much on death row. Julian is going to be given a show trial if they go through the extradition. Now, the current administration, like the last one, wants him here. They're just as embarrassed as the last administration and the one before that. They want to ship him here, they're going to give him a show trial, and then they're going to condemn him to death, slow death like Superman. Now listen, you guys need to know only one thing, because you know everything about Julian, and you know about Malia, and you know about what this country is. This is what you need to know. As organized as an activist, how important your work is, how brave you are. We have comrades just a month ago in the Philippines. They were murdered. They were murdered. Their names were put on a list by Duarte, just like us, activists just like us. They were murdered. And who? Who in this country? Young people like a few here. Fred Hampton. His name was put on a list by that motherfucker over there. J. Edgar Hoover put Fred Hampton's name on a list, and they murdered him. So what are we gonna do?
Fight back!
Rise up! Rise up!
Fight back!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
No extradition!
No extradition!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free them all!
Free them all!
So I'm going to have Beth come on in just a moment, but I want to talk first about a little bit about what Action for Assange is, the way we organize, and what globally Assange activists have managed to accomplish. Right? 2 years ago, I showed up in Washington D.C. Right? Technically, tomorrow is the 2-year date when I showed up, and there was no one outside of the British Embassy. I messaged my good friend Lee Camp, and I said, "Hey, do you know where everyone is?" And he said, "I think they went home around 9. I grew up in an era watching Occupy happen, where people gave up their lives to demand the change that they wanted to see in the world. I had a 10-hour drive home thinking, where the hell is everyone? Right? Because when Julian was arrested back in 2008, 2009 in London, the streets were filled. They were not able to keep him in prison on fake charges. Right? After a decade of propaganda and smears, they've managed to do just that. So as Action for Assange, we recognize that horrible issue that was happening. But we didn't want to build a movement where there was a person at the top giving orders to everyone else underneath. So what we did 92 weeks ago, 93 now, is we started doing a talk show on YouTube, essentially. We were interviewing people, we were making sure that we were only giving the factual information about Julian's trial. And the goal from our very first episode that we discussed was building a decentralized global activist movement of people understanding what is wrong and rising up to take action in their own space, in their own time, and in their own way. Today marks the 2-year anniversary, if we can even call it an anniversary, because that's something to be celebrated, of when Julian was taken out of the Ecuadorian embassy. Right? 2 years have passed. Today, we have 36 global events happening in 30 countries, in 5 continents. There is 14 events that happen at least bi-weekly. There is 7 events around the world happening once a week. We are making this change, and we will not go anywhere, because we understand what we're losing. And when Julian is brought to the United States, if that horrible fate ever falls upon him, it will be us that disappears next. We are here in self-preservation as much as we are fighting for the preservation of our country and the restoration of basic liberties. So again, thank you for everyone around the world rising up today, because this would not be possible if it wasn't for individuals sacrificing time, money, sacrificing holidays with friends, going out and basically screaming at buildings, hoping someone will listen. But guess what? They're listening. The eyes of the world are watching what's happening to Julian. It cannot be ignored any longer. So what I ask everyone to do here today and watching at home all the activists all over the world that are working tirelessly for this. Do not quit. We cannot stop until this man is free and these criminals are languishing. Because this is our nation.
Julian Assange.
Free Julian Assange! What was their decision? No extradition! And yet, there is Julian sitting in Belmarsh prison. After Vanessa Baratzer made her decision against extradition on January 4th of this year, why is he still there? He should be out, he should be free, he should be with his family right now. But yet, because the U.S. is appealing that decision, and Vanessa Baratzer again denied him bail, here he sits with murderers, mass murderers, terrorists, a man who has never committed a violent act in his entire life, a man of peace. His most famous quote, if wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth. That's what he's about. That's why he published that information about the collateral murder video. He was trying to bring peace to the world. And yet he's being persecuted for that by the very war criminals who committed those crimes. This has been going on for way too long. That man needs to be free. He needs to be given proper medical care. He needs to be with his family and his friends. This is a travesty. There is no justice in the Department of Justice. And we need to keep reminding people of the fact that this man has committed no crime. When he released the collateral murder video, he was not only obligated morally, he was legally obligated under the Nuremberg principles. He was supposed to release that as a journalist and as a human being who cares about human life. And that's exactly what he did. Those motherfuckers there, those motherfuckers back here in this building, they don't care about human life. They care about power. They care about money. We need to free Julian so he can bring them down out of power before it's too late, before they destroy this world and destroy every single one of us. Thank you. Free Julian Assange! Free Assange now!
Free Assange now!
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, you can hear me, okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm a lawyer. I do a lot of demonstration law here in D.C. So I'm usually the one wearing the green hat outside these events. But, yeah, thank you. I want to especially thank Action for Assange and your leaders, because you've been absolutely steadfast. Some of us were at the UK Embassy on January 3rd, and they were basically doing an around-the-clock vigil for Julian when they were waiting for the extradition decision, and serving cake and doing all that things. Thank you very much. But the National Lawyers Guild, of course, is a progressive legal organization, and we have spoken out many times in favor of Chelsea Manning, Julian Assange, Mumia, and other political prisoners and reporters who get in prison for doing the job of reporting. We have many statements. We've also aligned with groups like Reporters Committee for the Freedom of Press, people like Daniel Ellsberg, who've also spoken out. And when we were trying to get Chelsea Manning case resolved, many of the activists who are here today went down to Quantico and got arrested outside the Marine base at Quantico and did other actions for themselves. Yeah. But back to Julian's situation. Obviously, as we all know, the Obama administration said, if we arrest Julian, we have to arrest the editor of the New York Times.
Yeah.
Because that's really what this is about. This is about releasing information, gained through various means, whatever, which all journalists do. So that's really what this case is about. And the Trump administration, of course, had to push the issue. But we're just hoping that President Biden and Merrick Garland can rethink the case, drop the appeal, and let Julian go free. Let's push President Biden to get away from his neoliberal tendencies and bring in some. Thank you.
So if there's anybody I missed that would still like to speak after this gentleman, by all means, the megaphone is open to whoever has something they'd like to say.
Hi, everybody. So, I wasn't going to speak, but historically, I went through that door when I was 15 years old because my dad worked in this building in the 60s. And Bobby Kennedy was Attorney General, Ramsey Clark was the Attorney General. And so after school, to get a ride home, I would go through that door, go to this men's room, to my dad's office, use the typewriter, use the telephone. And I thought that I lived in a country that was free and the Attorney General could protect us, okay? Because I had no real education when I was a teenager what the country was all about. So when I was 19, I demonstrated against the Vietnam War. That was in 1970. And then, kept on demonstrating for peace and justice. And then Mumia came along, and I had to get involved in Mumia because I said, well, now they're arresting our truth tellers, our real people to stand up to the power. So we had a demonstration in San Francisco in 95. There was about 300 of us arrested for 2 days. Then we went to the Liberty Bell in 99. We were arrested there by blocking Liberty Bell. Then I also was arrested in front of the Supreme Court, all for Mumia. And I said, well, we're going to get Mumia out one of these days. But Mumia's still in jail. I can't believe it. Senator Pierre's still in jail. I can't believe it. So, as everybody said before me, thank you all for being here. I feel very empowered by all of you. The PFW is here. The New Wolf is here. And all the great people from lady from England is here. And it's just so great to see everybody. The Ann Wilcox is here. Lou is here. And all of you spoke before me. So, once again, thanks for coming out.
Cool.
Hey, how are you?
Okay.
I'm well back.
Two things I forgot. So the name of the person that Julian Assange was supposed to give was the person who leaked the DNC emails, not the collateral murder video. That was Chelsea Manning. The other thing, I want to give a special shout out to someone who's not here in DC right now, but she's a member of the MCSC network as well. She's also a member of Action for Assange, and that's Misty Winston. Misty Winston has been trying to get journalists to talk about Julian Assange. And unfortunately, there's some so-called progressive journalists that are not taking this seriously. And I'm quoting this directly, this is what this person said to Misty Winston. Glenn Klippenstein said in response to Misty about why he's not covering Assange just to spite you. Can you believe that these progressives, these people that call themselves progressives, are not taking the torture of Julian Assange seriously? And that tweet that Glenn Klippenstein gave to Misty, it got over 2,000 likes. So we have to be louder than them. We have a lot of work to do. Fortunately, there's a lot more people out there now that are more awake and more informed about what's happening to Julian Assange and to everything else that's going on in the world, but we have to be loud, and it'll be a domino effect. We need people like you to spread awareness online, and then that translates to what we're seeing here, to on-the-ground public pressure. So thanks again, guys, for coming out, and don't stop spreading the truth. Free! Free!
Julian Assange!
Free! Free!
Julian Assange!
We will not back down!
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 Thank you very much.
Hold on, thank you.
So, again, I just want to give a big thank you to everyone that cares. Right, to everyone here today, to everyone internationally, to the viewers, to the community that we've built that helps fund these events. We have a contingent of people, the other half who you're not seeing today, Steve Poikonen, Glory Jones, the Convo Couch, that they are absent from action. They are, for the first time, we now have an East and West Coast Action for Assange organizing arm. Yesterday, they held a press panel in front of dozens of activists and journalists explaining to them not only what is happening to Julian and why it's important, but the traps of censorship, and how being okay with one person you don't agree with getting removed will lead to you getting removed from these platforms. Right? But the other thing, the other topic that press panel discussed, right, which is more important, honestly, than all of these other issues, is how to talk to people you disagree with. How to have a conversation with someone who isn't ideologically the same. Right? Because there's a lot of traps. There's a lot of trigger words. There's a lot of ists and isms that we all label ourselves with and label other ists and isms as bad and terrible. But I'm here to tell you today that all political ideologies, to a greater or lesser extent, are bankrupt. And these are not my words. These are Julian's from a speech that he gave in 2008 or 9. He said, you cannot have a political ideology without access to information. Because what you are believing may not be true. And there may be solutions that come from a different ist or ism that may serve the community you live in better. So what I'm asking everyone for today, right as we go home and return to our normal lives, remember that the people around you are your allies. Right? We're in a world right now where we have seen mass business closures, huge unemployment numbers greater than the Great Depression. So what we need to do now to push back against this liberal order while continuing to demand that Julian be free is go into our communities. We need to organize mutual aid and mutual defense. So that way when this same empirical power comes to bring democracy to America, we have the ways and means to get around it. Because we do not need to rely on this state. It is a lie. There is no need for concentrated power. And we will not stop until that has been removed. So today, let it be a day of victory. While Julian still languishes, we have gathered in the thousands around the world to demand that he be free. There is British consulates and embassies in multiple nations right now with people assembling outside of them. The people inside have to give reports. So the Home Office in England, as we speak now, has been receiving letters saying there's a group of people outside demanding Julian be set free, or in whatever words they choose to describe it. So again, I ask and appeal to everyone, do not back down. Because once this fight is won, we will have turned the tide in the battle against the global intelligence community. It may not be the final victory, but Julian Assange's extradition being denied for any reason was our flag on the beach of Normandy against the fascists in World War II. It's not the final blow, it's not the ultimate defeat, but it is our path to victory. It is a light to look to say, let's fight there. Because once we claim the ability to share classified information, right, there's this idea of the chilling effect, that prosecuting a journalist scares other journalists into not standing up, into not publishing information like this. Right, but let's talk about the boiling effect and what the hell we can do when the U.S. government is forced to say, you can share classified information, you can share crime, you can expose corruption. That will release a bulwark, a headway for us to reclaim our liberty. But it starts in our home communities. It starts by changing the hearts of people. If we expect to overthrow this tyrannical government through force and violence, all we will do is put the most violent of us back in power, which is the system we have now. So we need to be thinking differently and objectively. We need to be finding ways to change the hearts and minds of the people around us. Whether you're going to city council meetings demanding that they make a statement about Julian, whether you're calling into local news stations or television saying, hey, have you guys heard about this? Do something. Do anything. Use the time and money and resources that you have left before they come in our homes and take us to fight back. Because when we win, we will be free. What was the decision?
No extradition!
What was the decision?
No extradition!
Again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out today, for sacrificing their time and money for making this possible. Thank you.
And YouTube. YouTube. Yeah. Hey. Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for watching.
Yeah, like I've been watching Nico House for a long time since he like kind of first started, and it's nice to watch the network grow. And you guys
As time passes on, it becomes more united and all that. Yeah, it is nice to see that. Yeah, because I was a fan of Nico for a long time too.
Okay.
It felt, I never thought I'd be like a part of his network and work with him.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's good because you probably, hopefully you feel like you can actually really, really do the real work.
And now more than ever, we need to have each other's backs because a lot of people are attacking us. So that's one of the reasons why this network is really helpful, because we all have each other's back.
Exactly.
And same thing with like the sister groups like Action for Assange, and other commentators out there that are also doing excellent work, like Richard Members. We all stand up for each other.
I feel like we really have to like be kind of like whack-a-mole, right? So we have like a bunch of people that just, so if one person is censored for, one person is, so then you have like other voices, other people
that still bring them on and sound the alarm for the audience. Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with like Whitney Webb and James Corbett, Ryan Chris, and all the other people that are getting censored right now.
I'd like to do the same when you're finished.
How much does it cost per hour?
But you can go to Prince Philip and stand there close to me and everybody and warn him, because that's really it.
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
No extradition!
No extradition!
Too much sound in the wrong direction.
Good job, everyone.
We can just do that again.
I'll move right up here.
Thank you very much.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
I'm really happy to be out here. Yeah.
That was really nice. I mean, you could have gone to LA, you know?
Oh yeah.
But you couldn't. It was nice that you covered us here because we
Yeah.
don't really have the media to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, we gotta expand. Yeah, but yeah, it's great. Yeah.
I'm sad that they did that, but it needed to happen. The West Coast
Yeah.
did something.
Yeah. I'm
Really
glad that
good.
people are in other parts of the country too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's great that people are expanding out.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than what it was like a year ago and 2 years ago, and it's gonna keep growing. I'm confident about that.
It's taken a long time. I've been at this 3 years.
Oh, it's gonna be exponential because it's like a domino effect. It must have felt lonely 3 years ago.
I think my. So what does that say? Tweet all. Does that mean I have? What does that mean?
We all, I don't know. Oh, because it's a thread? Okay.
It's in draft. So can we get a picture in front of the? Everyone, can we get a group picture in front of the truck? Yeah, it's actually, I think it's bad for your brain to be scrolling all the time. But can we have people in front of the truck?
Yeah. Everybody needs to do this quick.
We have to do it fast.
Gotta do it quick.
Quick.
Because now everybody get low so we can get the sign. Yeah, I'll get a picture. I'll send it to you. Can we get this a little low so we get everything on the side? I'm sure you know you need it real quick. I appreciate your patience. Get together. All you people on my right, punch in, get in. Get together, middle. Got multiples, okay. Thank you. Everybody. Hey, have a safe trip back up there.
Andrew, you want to give a final message? All right. Where can we stand?
I just want to know where your light's going to be good.
Huh? Let's go like right here, like in front of the sign. Alrighty.
So I just want to end this with a big shout out to Steve Poikinen, Glory Jones, Misty Winston, Nico House, my man Franco right here, Pasta Feed, Johnny, Sleepy Josh, and everyone else that makes all this shit possible. Everyone that donates to us, everyone that understands what's happening in the world and spreads the message. Because without fearless people like them on the West Coast, and without people like you actually donating to make these specific events possible, we couldn't be here. So I'm honored to be able to be here today representing everyone. So thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, for all you do.
Yeah, and if you're in LA, I don't know what time it is, what time it's in LA right now, but noon at the CBS building on Somerset and Grommer, I believe, is where Pasta, Fee, Johnny, Josh, Glory, and Steve are going to be meeting up for a big crew. Kim Iverson's going to be there.
Rompacone.
Kim was in New York this morning. Kim was in New York this morning.
Yeah, was she?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a hike then if she's going from...
Oh no, I'm confusing her with Kim Ives. You know Kim Ives?
I don't.
Okay. Haiti activist.
But again, everyone, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Don't stop fighting.
All right.
Andy, good work, man. What's your last name?
Smith.
Smith, okay. It won't be hard for me.
Hey,
I'm Zool.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and your name is?
Franco.
Hey, Franco. And you're organizing with, you've got